Turkey invaded my country, Cyprus, 52 years ago. So I wanted to have this conversation. So, yes, what changed? Did you figure some things out? We have a
great news changed. Okay. Absolutely great news, which is that the Turkish Cypriots voted for a leader last week who said we should have a binational solution. Perfect. Peace. This is exactly what's needed.
Do you think Turkey will be wanting this?
The question always is, let's talk. I would say this is great news. First, I would talk with I would have the Greek Cypriots talk with the Turkish Cypriots and say, wonderful, congratulations on your election. Very exciting what you're saying, very promising. Could we discuss a bit? And maybe we go together and speak to President Erdogan and see how that goes, because maybe we have a solution here. And I'd love to join that discussion, because I would love to say in Turkey, and I'd love to say in Cyprus, make peace. It's going to be mutually, hugely beneficial.
Do you think it will be beneficial for Turkey?
Hugely beneficial. The tourism, the peace, not having this terrible distraction coming. This is a boom for Turkey. Turkey needs, by the way, it needs tourism. A lot of investment in Cyprus could be two-way. There'd be a normalization of relations. This would be phenomenal. And by the way, it would also make it possible.
But why it didn't happen 52 years now? Because it's not the same with, because we are talking about great powers, it's not the same that happened. Nothing provoked too much this.
No, the sad part is, you know, when the referendum came, the Turkish Cypriots voted for the binational state, and the Greek Cypriots voted against it. That was everybody's shock. You know, when the referendum was made on reunification of the island, everybody said, look, the Turkish Cypriots have to support this, because otherwise it's going to block Cyprus's accession to the European Union, because the European Union said, if we don't have both sides unified, Cyprus is not going to enter the EU. And so the whole drama of that referendum was, what are the Turkish Cypriots going to do? What are the Turkish Cypriots going to do? Lo and behold, what happened? The Turkish Cypriots voted for reunification. The Greek Cypriots voted against it. Everyone was shocked. Europe immediately said, it doesn't matter, we'll take Cyprus in. Nonetheless, it was a typical move. Rather than saying, hey, guys, Greek Cypriots, you need to get this done properly. Cyprus was just admitted, and then all the charge was, it's the Turks that are blocking this. But Turkey was supporting the referendum, I believe, at the time, until it failed on the Greek side.
But it was, to the defense, I was 4 years old. So to the defense of the people, the Greek Cypriot, it was the terms of that they say that it was going to be a dysfunctional state.
You know, I don't want to revisit the referendum. I just want to say that the Turkish Cypriots were not the obstacle. That's all I want to say. And so the fact that they have voted right now for a binational solution is great. And the main point I wanted to make was, and it's not outside the way that the Turkish part of Cyprus has been thinking, even back to then. So I think there's something very promising possible right now.
I think so as well, but I want your thoughts about the European role on this. What the European Union should do with Turkey. Should we pressure, like, I don't know, for them to have a solution with what mechanism? Because now we are buying some weapons from Turkey. We are having good relationships, the European Union with Turkey. We're in NATO, as well, NATO, Turkey. So, yeah, what should be the role of the European Union?
I think the start is for the government in Nicosia, the Greek Cypriot government, to sit down with the Turkish Cypriots and with this new leader and say, this is very interesting. I really believe in general, start local and talk. And this is very promising because this was a campaign in the Turkish side that pitted him against someone who was demanding independence backed by Turkey. And so this fellow won a real political campaign on the central issue. Talk to the guy and then say, oh, you know what? We have the makings of a real solution here. Then on that basis, I think both should go talk to President Erdogan. Go talk to Greece, very responsible Prime Minister Mitsotakis. Say, look, we can actually resolve this thing. Make the package, go to Brussels, say, bless us. That's all. We don't need you to do it.
So you don't think we need the help of European Union? We should do it ourselves first.
I definitely would start with diplomacy. I always believe in sitting down and trying.
Okay. So I'm going to explain you a bit. I'm in a weird situation as a member of the European Parliament. Because of the conflict, 30% of the island is occupied by Turkey. A lot of the people in Cyprus want us, and they think with their brain, that putting sanctions as European Union in Turkey and putting pressure will help for Turkey. So I wanted to hear your thoughts, if this you think could help or if this will damage. So please explain. Because currently I'm voting for sanctions.
This is a standard issue of human beings in general, not only about Turkey's division. When you're in what we call a strategic dilemma is a situation where if we cooperate, we both gain. If we both fail to cooperate, we both lose. But if you're soft and I'm tough, I gain some advantage over you. And this leads to a kind of perversity, which is in our lives every single day. We're always looking, are they tricking me? Are they going to take advantage of me? I don't really trust you. And since I don't trust you, I'm not going to be nice. I'm going to have to be hard. It's only being tough. It's like when I mentioned Kissinger saying, if you can't aggravate them when they're weak, what are you going to do when they're strong? He didn't have the idea that maybe you don't aggravate them at all. It didn't even cross his mind. Maybe you cooperate with them. So in these kind of strategic dilemmas, as we call them in economics or in game theory, the question is, how do you achieve cooperation in such a situation? And the general answer is, well, it's not a one-time game. If you cooperate now, you build trust, you cooperate in the future, you continue to gain. Whereas if you break cooperation, then you have this terrible hostility which persists and both sides lose. So then comes the question, okay, I see, Mr. Sachs, you're a little naive, but you think we could cooperate and build trust over time. But how do I know? Maybe I'm going to be cheated in this. And the answer, the best practical answer that's been found in strategic interactions is, and now I'm turning to formal economics game theory, is called tit for tat. And that is, if we're in this kind of dilemma, do we cooperate, do we cheat? In the first round, we should cooperate. If the other side cheats on us, well, we're not going to be a sucker the second time around. But it's a very bad strategy with a new face-to-face to say, I start hard. Because they're going to say, all right, asshole, I'm not going to deal with you. You're out to get me. Here you have a newly elected leader who won on the basis of finding a solution. To my mind, the idea that you would start with sanctions against this is completely wrong. You say, congratulations, my hand is out, let's sit down. You don't start on the hard line on the first encounter. By the way, Trump does. Trump is a nasty SOB. So he thinks, okay, we're going to bargain. First thing, I'm going to slug you in the face. I'm going to weaken you. I'm going to pummel you. I'm going to bloody your nose. Then I'm going to say, oh, we could be great friends. Let's talk. That's a kind of thuggery. It is an approach. It's a kind of gangsterism, but it actually doesn't lead to good results. Trump isn't winning the world or recovering the United States. He's making enemies all over the world. If you want peace on Cyprus, don't start with sanctions. Start with trying diplomacy.
But we've been trying for a long time now with diplomacy. But I want to push back a bit because if it was here, Professor Meschheimer, we're going to maybe have the debate of detaining a power. So maybe you can do everything to your that you can to make the power less strong. So you understand, because this is kind of how the world works. So if I say this argument, what do you answer?
I love John Mearsheimer. I think he's a great political scientist.
By the way, you are my two mentors. So I listen to you very often.
I have only one not a complaint against John, but I have my main point, which is his magnum opus, his great book from a quarter century ago is called The Tragedy of Great Power Politics. So John explains tragedy. I'm trying to overcome tragedy. And I'm saying if you want to overcome tragedy, you start out nice with the other side. John says, oh, you're going to be cheated. Maybe one round, then we'll know. But I'm saying there's actually a lot of cooperation possible. I'm not so pessimistic about human nature. And especially when a politician has just run a campaign on making peace, you don't start out presuming that they're out to make conflict. You have something new.
So basically you are saying, try it, to give diplomacy a chance, try everything you can possible to give. But if you get cheated, you can follow the detainment method.
That's correct.
Put sanctions to do this.
That's what tit for tat is, which is you cheat me, the next round I don't cooperate. I'm not going to be suckered twice.
I understand.
By the way, I don't want to digress in a long discussion, but maybe it bears 2 minutes of saying there is one episode of modern history which is taken in Europe as the case for not talking with the other side. And that is in the fall of 1938, when the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain negotiated with Adolf Hitler in Munich. And in Munich, the British made some concessions to Hitler, especially over territory in Czechoslovakia. And within months, Hitler broke every agreement and Europe fell into war. And that episode is taken since then as a case, don't talk to the other side. That's appeasement is what it's called. And I think it's a complete misreading of history and a complete abuse of history. And it's, first of all, an abuse of history because it is not true that every adversary is Adolf Hitler. And pretending that is what warmongers do. I've grown up my whole life hearing that every adversary of the United States is Adolf Hitler, whether it's Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi or
Putin.
This is exactly an abuse. But there's a second, even more pertinent point, which is that even in 1938, subject to one important proviso, it was not wrong to try to negotiate with Hitler. I think there was only one mistake made, actually, and that was Chamberlain said, "We have peace in our time." So he's remembered for gullibility. But the idea that he negotiated was not wrong. What he should have done was said, Hitler is pretty despicable, clearly very militarist, making unacceptable demands. We are trying to avoid war. We have made an agreement, but we're going to be watching every single move that this man makes, and we're going to be holding him to this. And I don't know whether it's going to hold or not hold, but we're going to try a last time to do this. And if it doesn't work, it's going to be war. That's what Chamberlain should have said. Instead, he declared peace in our time, so he's remembered as being a completely naive. But the negotiation was not wrong. And incidentally, again, this is a big digression. It deserves, for people who care, it deserves a big discussion. But Munich 1938 was not the decisive failure of the West and of the anti-Hitler view. And there are important historians, Richard Overy among them, who said, actually, Hitler regarded it as a great disaster for Hitler. Why? Well, Hitler said it delayed my launching the war by a year. That's what he told his aide, Martin Bormann, in 1945. He said it was my biggest mistake. They tricked me into diplomacy. So from Hitler's point of view, it was his mistake, not Chamberlain's. But the second thing that's really important and relevant for today is Hitler exposed himself as someone completely, totally impossible to negotiate, completely untrustworthy. And he made the whole world see it. And he made possible Winston Churchill, because Churchill took power in May 1940. Chamberlain fell because of this debacle. The war started on September 1, 1939. Chamberlain fell. Hitler came to power. And in the first days of May 1940, Churchill faced inside the British cabinet people who said we should negotiate with Hitler. And Churchill said, you cannot negotiate with Hitler. Look at what happened. And this is why the House of Commons backed Churchill and said, no, we're not going to negotiate with Hitler, because Hitler had exposed himself as completely incapable of negotiating. This is why it's so wrong to say, I can't negotiate with that person. Put them to the test, expose them. If you say that they won't live up to something, get them to sign. And when they don't live up to it, you've made your case. But the way that it works now, for example, with Putin, where I think it's completely false, by the way, in substance, is Europe says, oh, we can't negotiate with him. But the whole rest of the world, which I know very well because that's where I spend my time, doesn't view Putin as the aggressor, views the U.S. as the aggressor.
What about Erdogan? Is he capable of negotiation?
Of course he is. Everyone's capable. Put them to the test.
No, but I mean, because you know also Erdogan, you have a very good relationship with Turkey, yes. Diplomat. So do you think they are trustworthy among the world? And that,
absolutely.
So you think it is worth a shot?
I would absolutely try diplomacy. In fact, by the way, I don't know how popular or unpopular it is to say, but I have a lot of experience with Turkish diplomacy. I think it's first rate. I know the Turkish diplomats, I know the ambassadors around the world, I know the foreign minister. They're extremely professional, sophisticated people. This is not some third-rate operation. Of course, it was an empire for centuries. They know diplomacy. They're very well trained, and you can have very serious negotiations. And that's why the Istanbul process was so effective till the U.S. blew it up, that you could bring Ukraine and Russia together. That required the skill of Turkish diplomacy.